I don't know why I was over at the kitchen window. I certainly had more cups of tea and cups of coffee in that holiday than I would usually have. I wasn't really feeling the booze at all, and I think it's because what was happening all around me was so intoxicating that there was no need for alcohol to properly relax. I think I might have been filling the kettle, although the dishwasher was over that side of the wee kitchen as well. Quite a big kitchen actually, lovely. Lovely digs, absolutely unbelievable digs. We couldn't work out why, when we were looking up the website, and picking the place where we were going to stay, we couldn't understand as we spent more and more days sitting in this just heaven, this unbelievable moving portrait, this kind of Sturm und Drang, Caspar David McFriedrich, God thoroughly, violently smacked shock and awe location that we were staying in. Why did the people who rent this cottage, why do they not make more of a deal, a big deal of the view you can have, just sitting watching the telly in the living room, or just sitting in the kitchen with the big kind of French doors, double doors, or just going out the back, or is it the front, who knows. In that part of the world, everything's so isolated, everything's so un-metropolitan, un-conurbation. Why did they all make a bigger deal of this unbelievable view? And then we realised about halfway through the holiday, no, they did. They did. We just thought it was the standard photographs. We thought it was that thing they do where if you're going to stay in, if you want to rent an Airbnb in Paris, for example, not that I ever have, but I imagine what they do is you get stock photographs when you look up the website for that Airbnb, when you're looking at how the actual flat or the house, how it's laid out, you're looking at the furniture, you're looking at blah blah, but then there'll also be photographs of Paris, a photograph of the Trocadero, a big photograph of the Eiffel Tower, the big photograph of the Arc de Triomphe, just you're thinking, that's just standard, that's Paris, but there's no way we're sitting with that in our front door. But we realised we had seen photographs of the view. We had seen photographs of the view for this cottage that we're staying in on the website when we're looking it up, but we just assumed it was a standard kind of arty, exaggeratedly beautiful photograph of Skye, just to take in the Isle of Skye. There you go, that's what Skye looks like. We thought, aye, that's all that kind of twee, hoots-mon, kind of London-centric, patronising idea of the Scottish Islands. That was the actual view. It was the view for the back door. It was the view when you're sitting outside. It was the view that was waking you up in the morning. The sun glinting in through the wee parting in the Velux windows, and you're like, is that what's? Am I still dreaming? And you get up, and at one point I found myself, because the Velux windows, because it was kind of attic space for the bedrooms, and I like to, I don't like to be. I bathe, not bathe. Sorry, I kind of sleep in much the same kind of amount of clothing, etc., as Marilyn Monroe. What are you wearing better? Chanel No. 5 or whatever it was she wore. I'm much the same. So I just got there's a pillow. It's hard floors, kind of wooden floors, no carpet and all that. So I grabbed this pillow that I'd put next to the end of the bedstead, because every time I come in I try to duck down, there's a wee bit sticking out the bottom of the bed. It's kind of this wooden thing that I kept battering my leg on in the middle of the night when I was going for my old man pee in the darkness. But so I grabbed that pillow that I put next to that to protect my leg from my stupidness, and I put it right at the bottom of the Velux window so I could kneel down, because there was a couple of other wee cabin type things, these pods that everybody's doing now. No, holiday pods. These ones were done up like kind of patronising gypsy caravans. They were just, they had wee windows, they couldn't really get a good view or who's, but you don't want to take any chances. I don't want another incident like that. No, not done off that register. So I opened up the window a bit more, but I knelt down so I could look out just over the Velux window, just look out up to the cooling, and I realised I was actually down on my knees, almost like praying, almost offering a kind of reverence to this transformative, unbelievable view of a part of the world that I'd never explored before, a part of our country. It's not our country. That's one of the things I tossed out there when I was trying to explain to folk in my typical barroom bore way about why I wasn't voting yes in 2014. Because where does it stop? Splitting up. I would want to be part of Europe. I want to be part of Great Britain. Where does it all stop? And it definitely feels the Gaels, the Ariata, the West. It definitely feels like a different country at times, but it's one I'm really proud to be associated with, to be attached to. I think we're better together. And I was just I'm doing my knees here, just almost like praying to this. I'm not a religious person, but my God, it was it was certainly a spiritually enhancing sight. And I say, on the Tuesday night, I think I found myself down in the kitchen for some reason. I was up at the sink. There was just one wee window at the back. This wasn't to the view. There was just the motor. Basically, our car was sitting outside the back. There's two windows in the kitchen. The big kind of French door, holiday windows that you would see in the literature for the digs, and then you've got the one at the back just in front of the sink and that. And it's, I mean, nice. You can see what would normally be when you're signing in Glasgow. It would normally be a lovely view, hills or moors and a bit of tree, a kind of tree line and stuff like that, and a wee farmhouse dotted about here and there. But you can't really see that much compared to the other side, the French windows. But I was up at the sink and I was just like, a horse has just galloped. A horse, two horses, ponies, are galloping past our car in the garden of the property we're in. It's no ponies, it's deer. These things have been galloping back, and it was dusk. It was just hitting dusk. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I just ran through to the living room, saying to my wife, look, kind of whispering, but look to the left, because she's watching a bit of telly, because it was just starting to get dark. And it was the window that was to her side, and I just kind of glanced out, and it was the deer standing at the end of the garden, and they're sussing stuff out. It was two kind of older ones and a wee kind of baby deer, doe deer, and they were looking about just like, totally, what's happened? And we thought somebody had kind of frightened them or whatever, because there's a road, it's a kind of single track dirt road basically at the end of the drive. The drive's just all gravel, but there's this grass up the back. It's kind of grass bank, and it galloped round that, so they were kind of framed with this kitchen window. To me, it's a beautiful thing when you see nature like that. Even if you're not into that kind of stuff, generally it really does. It kind of grabs a hold of you, and it goes round this. And they must have been startled by something. It was a car, there was a cat. A cat came and welcomed us the first day we arrived. I'm not really a cat person, but this cat was absolutely amazing. Like a tabby cat. It was just so friendly, and obviously did want a bit of food, but it wasn't really bothered about that. I just wanted to keep us company. It would sit on top of the map. When I had the map, I had the road map, old style road map. Who uses road maps now? Me, because I want to see the whole country, planning out where we're going to go the next day. And it would come and jump up on the wee table that was at the back, the wee kind of bench table, and it would sit on top of the 2019 AA road map of Great Britain. And it's on page 82, 83 that was covering Skye, and it would go up and it would sit on that bit of the map. When I had it open, the big kind of A4, so A5 size, A2, big page anyway. And I'm thinking, it's no cat map, cat nap, no cat nav. I was trying to do these posts on. I should really get back on Twitter. I can make an absolute fortune with part like that and the photographs that were going along with it. But maybe the cats startled these deer. Maybe that's why they're running the side there. It was absolutely gorgeous, and then we're watching them, and we went upstairs for the Velux windows upstairs, and we're looking out, watching them, and they're just kind of looking about, and then I'm thinking they can't go any further because there's that big fence down there. It's all like kind of old crofts, subsistence kind of farming type divvying up of the land all round about, and there's a wee kind of pool down at the bottom called Pool Roag. The place we're in, the wee hamlet we're in, is called Roag, R-O-A-G. And down at the bottom there's this beautiful, it's just this water, but it's called Pool Roag, and it bleeds out into two lochs that bleed into another bigger loch that bleeds out into the Little Minch, that bleeds out into the Western Isles and St Kilda. And when ye go, will ye send back a letter from America? All that kind of stuff. And I looked it up. Just watching these deer, and they bounded down and they just jumped over the fence. And I'm forgetting that deer can actually jump like that. They jumped over the kind of barbed wire fence, and they went down to the water's edge as well. And they were having a wee nibble at the grass, and it just got so dark we couldn't see them anymore. And it was just a magical moment. During the week or something like that, a working week, you wouldn't give it a second thought. But when you're on holiday, it's this is lovely. And you think, yeah, I'm being a bit of a wanker, I'm being a bit of a tosser, I'm being very self-indulgent. That's what you're supposed to do in your holidays. And maybe a day later or something, I looked up Roag. It actually means, the place we're staying in, it means deer pool in Norse. In Norse. No Swedish, no Danish, no Icelandic. Norse. For the very fucking time, we're talking back, 700s. The first time the Vikings gave this place we were in, which is made up of, about a dozen, 2 dozen hamlets, 2 dozen, no cigars, 2 dozen wee buildings, whatever. A lot of them obviously formerly kind of farmhouses, a lot of new builds for, I say a lot, but it's just dizzying the amount of scenery there is, the amount of fields and all that, but they're obviously made for holidaymakers like ourselves. And you're sitting there doing that totally hypocritical thing and going, God, it's an absolute sin, isn't it? If they start putting in so many holiday homes for these bloody tourists, they're going to ruin the views here, you know. And it's like, that's what you're doing right now. Like you're actually in a new build kind of cottage purely built for tourists. You are part of the problem here, but it's the fucking Vikings that named that Roag. I thought this is gorgeous, and I don't ever want my holiday. I felt totally in tune with everything that's, you know, it's the 700s probably. That's the deer have been down to that pool, down to that. It's the top of a loch, if you like, and you'd watch it. A tidal loch, you'd watch it kind of draining itself during the day, then building back up at night, and the ebb and the flow, and then the things going on with the cooling. And I didn't even know it was the cooling. I didn't even know it was the black cooling that was not at the bottom of that loch, but just in the view, filling up the whole the other kitchen window, the kind of French doors. I just don't really know. It's the sky and what have you. But the cloud was so low for so many days. And we're kind of arguing about it, me and my wife, because none of the two is are very good when it comes to our geography, well, knowing where we are. Working things out for a map. So is that the cool? Is it black? But we passed all these other amazing, you know, obviously passed all these hills on the way in. And the way into Skye, because it's right up at top of Skye. It's the furthest west I think I've ever been. I'm not very good at working out the grid references, the ordnance survey stuff, but I think it might be further. It looks like if you take a ruler for Iona and you put it straight up, it seems to be to the left on the map. So I think it's the furthest west I've ever been in the UK. You know, and Scotland. You know, I've been to like Chicago and New York and all that. You know, so it's, you know, that's pretty far west. But I've never actually been to. Not been that far. When we went up to Uig, we drove one day up to Uig. We're coming off the Duranish. We're staying in the Duranish Peninsula. But you drive, it's like 2 seconds outside Dunvegan. And then you drive round, you can go up the Trotternish Peninsula up either side of it, and up to Uig. It's like something, a children's storybook. It was reminding me of the animated version, the animated adaptation of Under Milk Wood. You know, it's narrated by Richard Burton. It's just this. It's like it's so almost borderline twee. It's so beautiful. It's so your childhood idea of what it's like. Because as you drive up, it's Uig Bay, just sits in off it cuts into the Trotternish Peninsula. And when you drive up towards it, you go way up high, and you can put this beautiful parking spaces everywhere, and you can look down onto it. And the ferry was sitting, and the ferry's gone to the Western Isles. It's either going to, I think it's like the top of South Harris, or it's going to the bottom of North Uist. It's going to one of two. That's the two places it goes. But you can get a ferry there, you can get a boat there, you can book it, especially to go to St Kilda. I think it takes about 7 hours to get it, but I thought, I'm going back. I'm going to do it. I'm addicted. I want to do this because I'm from the west of Scotland. That's one thing. I know Rangers are supported by people from all. Don't talk about Rangers. Rangers are supported by people from all over the world, and everybody's really welcome to support Rangers, and certainly from all over Scotland. We really are a all Scottish, all international football club in our appeal and in our welcome to others. But our founders don't come from Glasgow. They came to Glasgow. I'm from Ardross, and I'm from Ayrshire. I sit and I look when I was like 20, up to about my mid-20s before I moved up to Glasgow. I could wake up at mum and dad's house, and I would just look out and I could see Arran from my bedroom window, and I grew up addicted to Arran, addicted to the Inner Hebrides without even really knowing it. I went to Iona years ago. Went to Tobermory last year. Just trips that I was doing because I had nothing else to do, and then obviously trying to keep the wife happy. So she wanted to do that kind of stuff. I'm not very adventurous when it comes to that kind of thing. I'd rather go to a big city. I'd rather go to Berlin or London or something like that, you know. But no, it was even driving over the Skye Bridge, first time in my life. I didn't realise that the song, you know, over the sea to Skye. It's no going over I'm singing that as we're going over the bridge, over the Skye Road Bridge. But which was like 30 years old the day before yesterday when we come back. I think it was like 30 years old in a day yesterday when we come back over it. But I'm driving over the bridge thinking, over the sea to Skye. But Bonnie Prince Charlie was actually coming from Benbecula, for the other side of Skye. He was going over the sea to Skye that way. He was over the Little Minch to get, when we went to Flora MacDonald's grave up the top of Trotternish, even though we're actually going to see Alexander McQueen's kind of grave, or it's the memorial. There's a gravestone for Alexander McQueen. That's adjoining onto that cemetery. Is it Kilmuir up the very top of Trotternish, like the end of the world that it would be if it didn't have the Western Isles, Benbecula, Uist and all that. It's all right in front of you. it's just right across the water, and then suddenly it's all gone because you can see it's such a brilliant view. You can see the weather coming in, and then it's raining, and there's a museum. There's a kind of Highland Life Museum there, which is all the old Highland kind of low brick Highlander Conor MacLeod thatched roof kind of cottage. It's a wee museum, but it's shut by the time we got there. I don't want to go into it anyway. But then the rain comes on as we're walking up to this cemetery. You can drive up to it, but I thought maybe they're going to shut that gate because it's getting towards 5 o'clock and the light's fading and the rain comes on. Fantastic time to be in a cemetery. And then you're looking down and you can just see out onto the water, and it's the rain's hitting this Highland village, and it's just so atmospheric. And for some reason, I don't know how I managed it. I think I've just been so overwhelmed by I've driven through Glencoe and all that before, but the drive up last Saturday, I think coming into it got a bit dull. It was getting a bit dull as we were driving into Skye last week. We got up the A82 and then stopping at Morrison's and Fort William to get a wee bit of supplies in, because that was the last proper supermarket apparently you were going to see before you go to Skye. So we got the supplies in for the week there, and then you're driving up. You go after the A87, but I had no idea. I knew about Glencoe and all that. I'd been there quite recently, and it's absolutely mind blowing. But once you start, is it Lochaber, and you go through, is it Glengarry? Looking at Glen. Oh my God! No wonder coffee's for closers only. Glengarry, I didn't see Glenross, but it was absolutely sublime. It was, as I say, proper Sturm und Drang stuff. Totally breathtaking. Really magnificent, and I think maybe by the time we got to actually Skye last Saturday, I was done. I was drained of looking at sublime scenery. Maybe I wasn't noticing. How can you drive through the Cooling, the red Cooling, and the black Cooling? How can you drive through that, past all that, without noticing it? I did notice it, but I was just more concentrating and cracking open my first can and getting there, because you get in at 4 o'clock, and when we left the house at 10:15, this is Glasgow 10:15, I thought there's absolutely no chance we're getting up there for 4 o'clock. I hate that, wasting a couple of hours, when you could be sitting out the back enjoying the view, driving, especially it's an October holiday. You've only got a few hours daylight between 4 o'clock and kind of 6 o'clock at night, but got there at 4, as my wife said to me. We would be here at 4 dead on if it hadn't been a few pissing about, because there's two big potholes as you drive after the main the dirt road to get into the digs, and I was like, oh right, we don't want to ruin the motor right at the last. She was just winding me up on that, but it hurt. It did hurt. But we went up to Uig and we looked to the west. I thought, I want to go to St Kilda one day. I want to be as west of Scotland as I can possibly be, because this is where I come from. I need to get older, you get a bit more kind of attached to your roots, and it's no patriotism, as I say, because I feel as if it is a different country, but it's one I'm proud to be attached to. And you went for Uig, and as we left Uig, we got in there and we down to Uig, and we parked and just went into one of these shops just to grab a sandwich and what have you. And it's one of these shops that's attached to a petrol station, and bits of the shelves were empty. And it's like something from the 1970s, a local shop. You don't want to be patronising, but right across it is it must be a brand new ferry terminal in Uig there. It's absolutely beautiful looking wee pottery shop to take on a potter about and walking about. I think this is absolutely magnificent. But should we drive up, you could see cars, this massive kind of cliff almost behind everything inland, and these cars are heading up it, doing that kind of double loop thing like you would see in the ice road truckers, except when it's the ice road truckers it goes to Nepal. It's no ice road truckers, it's Nepalese road truckers or whatever it is, and they do all the winding roads and the edge of cliffs, and you think they're going to fall. If it looked like that, if you're down in the ground level and looking up going, should we go up that way for a laugh and see what's that? But then you could see the cars were all stopped and there was passing places, and I thought, I don't want to get involved in that in our wee motor. We kind of Vauxhall Astra type job. I don't know why I get involved in that. That looks a bit much for us. We're going to end up, I'll do in the motor, and we'll be stuck in the top of Skye, waiting for the AA to get there before the end of the weekend. It was bad. So I'm watching. I'm not going to bother that. And then a few days later, I was actually coming down that road for the other side, because you just couldn't get enough of it. Once you get into it, you couldn't get enough of Skye. And I was sitting on the Sunday, and I'm looking at my. Looking at the visitor book, you're thinking the whole thing about the view. I thought, they're not making enough of the view in this place. One other getting, you get a guest book, you go to a wee holiday cottage, a wee B&B, they've got a wee guest book, a wee visitor book, a wee, for them to read, to leave comments, and you've got to have a wee nosy at that and see where the folk that stayed there the week before, where did they come from, and is that what, the way they're brought up there, is that what made them leave the stains in the bathroom, but you're looking at it, they were from Oregon, the folk that had been there before, and there's other folk that had been there from Australia, and there's a couple of folk from Glasgow, which I found quite disappointing. I was wanting us to be pure exotic and staying with other exotic folk. There's a few couples and families that come from Glasgow to visit. But back in July, something like the 4th or 5th couple before we were there staying in this place, the guy was from Zwickau. The family had been staying there. The guy was leaving, I think it was a guy with 2 kids. Zwickau. It was actually from Zwickau, which is the birthplace of Danny Roll. It's Danny Roll. The same place. This is a sign. This is a sign that Danny Roll is destined to be the next Rangers head coach, because the Steven Gerrard thing had fell through on the Saturday night, and I did a wee podcast about it on Saturday from that very spot. I was pretending it was the Algarve guys. No fooling news. There's just no fooling news. Although I'm really disappointed in the amount he's called me a liar. There's got to be some trust here. I'm lying to you, but I mean, not just the fact you wouldn't take my word for it. Just how am I supposed to milk you for as much money as possible if you just don't believe me? But it was Steven Gerrard that come through Saturday night, sitting watching Netflix, and the furthest west I've ever been in Scotland, in a place named by the Vikings. There's so many places named by the Vikings. I come from Ardrossan, which means is that a fortification high above the sea? The Castle Hill. It's talking about, that's the name of it. You get into all that stuff when you're on holiday in Scotland. So I was looking at nothing. There's no view anymore because it was dark, and I was watching something really bad on Netflix. What was it? Do you think Timothy Spall's in that film? It was BBC iPlayer. The last bus trip, where it's just like, and we suddenly realised, we watched the thing with Rafe Spall, his son. It's called, what's it called? Copenhagen, Denmark, something like that. It's something. The two of them are in competition to see who can, the father and son, in competition to see who can make the most depressing fucking film you've ever seen in your entire life. One's, gone for, the first thing in the film is, John O'Groats and his wife saying to him, I want to get as far away from here as possible. No, sorry, they're on Land's End, Cornwall. I want to get as far away from here as possible. And I'm thinking, well, that's, it's actually probably the Antarctic or something like that, as furthest place possible. But you think, well, that's got to be, John O'Groats, and they moved to John O'Groats. I know it's all symbolic and what have you, but they watched that, and this is absolutely awful. So it was in keeping with it, the kind of really self-indulgent pessimism of that film, although it's supposed to be uplifting. That Steven Gerrard, the whole thing had fallen through, and I did a wee podcast for you the next day saying how I wasn't that bothered. Was it just acting? Was it just pretending? Was it kind of trying to put a brave face on it? I wasn't that enthused about Gerrard coming back. I said it's one of the things. It didn't feel totally right. It didn't feel totally wrong either. I would have been happy. It's like, it's fine. Getting a visit for an old family member or something. You didn't want them staying too long. That's a problem when he's going to be the manager of your football club. But maybe the fact he wanted to be a manager at all was the problem. We don't know, and that's the thing. We don't know what actually happened. I hear nobody wanting to take it. Sorry, you're supposed to be not talking about Rangers yet. Not going into the Rangers thing properly yet. Danny Rowe, I was like, yeah, that'll do. I think it's destined to happen. I suddenly realised I wanted something. I wanted to stay with the head coach thing. I wanted to stay with the. I remember I've talked to you before about the football vote thing. A documentary that the BBC made in 1995, probably in the build-up to Euro '96. Being held in England. It's a documentary series that really stayed with me. It's only about 3 or 4 episodes. It'll be there on YouTube somewhere. And lots of tales for it. It really affected my life. In fact, I remember everything from it, really. Very informative. And there's an interview with Gunter Netzer, and I knew at this point in time, I was just Euro '96, I'd be like, 26, just old enough to be dangerous, to think that I knew more than I actually did about European football and all that. So it's Gunter Netzer talking about being the manager of Hamburg, HSV, HSV, when they won the European Cup in 1983, and I'm going, what's he talking about? Gunter Netzer, what a player, what an absolute legend of a player, even though they didn't want him in the team in '74, and that's probably why they won the World Cup, because he was too flash. But absolutely fantastic, Gunter Netzer. And I know he did. A kind of career as an administrator and a salesman and all that after he stopped playing, but there's no way he was a manager. And then it was just because it was Ernst Happel. It was a memorable thing that Ernst Happel was first guy to win the European Cup, as it was then, before it became the Champions League, with 2 different clubs. He won it with Feyenoord when they beat Celtic in the 1970 final in Milan, and then he won it with Hamburg when they beat Juventus in the 1983 final in Athens. Felix Magath scoring the only goal of the game. And I watched that one live as a kid. I was like 13, just coming up 14 at the time. So that was one of the stats they mentioned at the end of that game, apart from the fact that Juventus were overwhelming favourites and had the first instance, I think, of T-shirts being printed up. Juventus the champions, and that pissing off Hamburg, get wind of this, and that was pissing them off, that motivated them. But they went on and won that final in Athens, and I mean, I think, that's the first. Ernst Happel, who I think played for the Austria team that got to the 1954 World Cup semi-final and got horsed by Germany. That was the moment that German football finally took over from the snobby Austrians. And but I think Ernst Happel might have been in that team, was he? I'm not sure. They finished third in the end. They won the fourth place playoff against Uruguay, but I think he becomes a managerial legend anyway, going to Feyenoord. He's Austrian. He goes to Feyenoord and then he goes to Hamburg. There's all sorts of things in between times as well. And he gets the national stadium, the Prater Stadium in the Prater Park in Vienna. That's named after him, after he dies. So Ernst Happel was the only guy to manage two different. Ernst Happel was the manager of Hamburg in '83 because he became the first guy to win it with two different. And then it was as memorable as one of the guys that won it with two different teams. And no, what he meant was this German thing. That's the head coach. Ernst Happel was the head coach, probably of Feyenoord as well in 1970, but definitely of Hamburg in '83. And Gunter Netzer had been talking about before '83. He'd been there when Kevin Keegan was at Hamburg, and it's like Kevin Keegan was wanting to leave, and I just said to him, "What is it you want? What is it you want?" Oh, I'm not. My family's no happy, and I need this, that, and the other thing sorted. And I got it sorted for him, and that was him. He was happy to stay. And and I remember Karl-Heinz Rummenigge in the same documentary talking about playing against Zanetti in the 1976 European Cup final, his first European Cup final, played alongside Gerd Müller and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge in the same team. And the guy that scored the only goal in the 1967 Cup Winners' Cup final against Rangers, Franz Bühler-Roth, he scored the only goal of the game. That night, only got one cap for Germany, Franz Roth. That's absolutely unbelievable. The talent they had in Germany, only 3 European Cups. He scored in the 75 final against Leeds United as well, Franz Roth, but he scored the only goal of the game. Gerd Müller scored the second in that one in 75 against Leeds in Paris. But this is 76 European Cup final at Hampden. Franz Bühler-Roth scores the only goal. What am I talking about? Karl-Heinz Rummenigge is talking about how he's really, he's talking about the manager. Anyway, giving him a whiskey, giving him a brandy over to calm his nerves before the game. And he said, "You want another one?" He said, "I better know I'm going to be pissed when I go in the park." But going to a European Cup final, getting drunk before the game. That's how good that. But he was talking about the manager. I'm thinking, that's not was it. Dietmar Kramers was the manager for that one, but it wasn't Dietmar Kramers. That wasn't the name he was mentioning. I started to realise slowly as a kid, and then my mid-20s, felt like a kid then, that the manager was a different thing in Germany. It was different from the head coach. There was a kind of dual operation going on there, and so the thought of the one and only Danny Roll coming in, who was born in East Germany, just the year the wall came down, or the wall opened up, it's still coming down. That would be, I just thought that'll suit us absolutely perfect. He'll have no problems whatsoever with this system. He's been raised in this system, plus the whole thing, no one likes us, we don't care. I mean, who's more disliked in international football than the Germans? Certainly when I was growing up anyway, the bias against them for the London based media was something fierce. So I thought it's going to be fantastic. I love the Germans. I grew up obsessed with how they played football, their attitude towards football, club and country. I thought this is absolutely perfect. It's a match made in heaven, Danny Rowe. And then that went as well. That had gone by. It was at Wednesday, and we're back to Kevin Muscat. Kevin Muscat was born in Crawley. He's actually born in Crawley. And I was talking about, I can't tell the difference between Crawley and Stevenage. It's one of the, like used to be Ghent and Genk. Talking about that earlier in the season when we're going to play Genk. There's certain clubs that I can't tell the difference between. I need to see them live to get that. I'll never forget about Genk now, although they made it one of the most forgettable football matches I've ever seen in my life when they came to Ibrox. We contributed to that. But the other one was Crawley and Stevenage, like Crawley Town, Stevenage Borough. I think they dropped the borough, Stevenage, but they still nicknamed the borough, and I could never tell them apart because I've never seen either of them. And I think if you stay doing that way, if you know anything about that kind of football, it's like, what? You can't tell the difference between them. It's like nobody able to tell the difference between, I don't know, East Stirlingshire and Annan Athletic or something. But just a bit of carelessness, just a bit of not been studying that level of football since the two of them come into the league and maybe drop back out of it in England. But Crawley is where Australian international Kevin Muscat was actually born. Kevin Vincent Muscat. So he's got his middle name is the first name of Vincent Hanna, Lieutenant Vincent Hanna in Heat, the 1985 LA crime saga by Michael Mann. So that's always a good sign as far as I'm concerned. But he was born in Crawley, and Sal Bibo, who's there, helping with taking the first team just now, the goalkeeping coach at Ibrox, he signed for Crawley. That's about the second team he signed for, and he appeared none times for them, according to Wikipedia. I don't think he played in the league for Crawley at all. So there's a link there. You've also got Stevie Smith, who was kind of caretaker manager today. His Rangers debut was against Hearts in 2004, and he came on as a substitute for Maurice Ross. Maurice Ross, who famously went on to play for Beijing Guangdong. I think it means Beijing Greens. Anyway, he went over to China. He was the first kind of guy we ever heard of who went over and played in China, like from Scotland. So that's quite a thing that he's taken on. We're kind of hoping, are we, some of us, that a guy who's managing a Chinese Super League team is going to come over and take over from Stevie Smith, who seemed to only score against Dunfermline in his Rangers playing career. Stevie Smith, every time when I was doing the blogging, the 2 times Stevie Smith was playing for us, I was always trying to be a smart ass and doing the not waving but drowning references to Stevie Smith, her most famous poem being his namesake, Stevie Smith, her most famous poem being not waving but drowning. And I think just now my kind of general attitude is we're not drowning but we're waving. It's no good what's happening to us just now, but we're kind of waving. It's all right. The guy's just kind of waving. He's in the sea and it's a bit choppy and things are looking a bit dangerous, but he is actually just waving. He's no drowning at all. I don't think Rangers are drowning. I don't think it's that bad. I think we're just set up, and I think we've got the new owners. Everything's going to be all right. I keep saying that though, and it isn't, but it is only October. It's only when you mention the fact that Rangers haven't won a league game at Ibrox and it's nearly November that you start to realise people maybe have got an actual point when it comes to complaining about the current management. Right, what's that? That's half an hour. That should get rid of the Celtic fans. That's enough ranting and raving, isn't it, about general garbage to have get rid of all the Celtic ambulance chasers, although they've got their own problems just now, Celtic, but they'll be on board this one. How you doing, folks? This is your Fatek. Rangers have failed yet again to win a league match at Ibrox. We have in total in the SPFL Premiership 2025-2026 got 9 points from 8 games and a goal difference of -1. The thing that's really annoying me just now is that we didn't beat Livingston by 2 goals. Because then when you put that together with the only loss we've had against Hearts, the goal difference would be completely level, and we'd also be 6th. We are 6th in the table just now. I think the only way we can drop below 6th, we can go back into the bottom 6 this weekend, is if Dundee beat Celtic about 9-0 tomorrow. So I'm up for it. I'm up for the fact that I'm up for Rangers dropping back down at the bottom half of the table. That would be good. We have played 8 league games. We have got 9 points. We have won 1. We have lost 1, and we have drawn 6. 6 is the number of games that we drew. The number of games in which we dropped points in total at the end of 2020-2021 season, the last season in which we won the league. Maybe a bit of a harsh comparison, but nevertheless it bears saying that we are only in the middle of October and we've already drawn that number of games. It also bears saying that we will only get 2 more chances at getting our first we'll get 1 more chance at getting our first home league win of the season before November, and that's going to be next Sunday against Kilmarnock. Immediate reaction pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. At Gersnet last night it was Ben and it was Scott who kind of stepped in for me. I had to tell Frankie I was going to be away on a holiday, so Scott stepped in for myself at short notice. So thanks to Mr. Scott Bradley for doing that last night. A fantastic pod. I'm still, as you might have kind of worked out, on holiday mode, so I don't know who's on. Didn't have a chance to watch the boys last night, but it's always good part from those two. And I don't know who's going to be on tomorrow night, 9:30, the Gersnet flagship show, 9:30 live on the Gersnet YouTube channel. But check it out because plenty to get our teeth into, and you're always well served in that respect when it comes to Gersnet, particularly when I'm not on it. So I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by people who rent out holiday lets, holiday cottages, Airbnbs and that kind of thing. Not making enough of the the scenery that you can see from the kitchen window. My name's Alec Anderson. With the money from her accident, she bought herself a mobile home. So at least she could get some enjoyment out of being alone. No one could say that she was left up on the shelf. It's you and me against the world, kid, she mumbled to herself. Da, 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 da. When the world falls apart, some things stay in place. Da, 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 da. Levi Stubbs' tears run down his face. She ran away from home in her mother's best coat. She was married before she was even entitled to vote. And her husband was one of those blokes, the sort who only laughs at his own jokes, the sort of war would take away. And when there wasn't a war, he left anyway. Da, 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 da. When the world falls apart, some things stay in place. Dun, 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 dun. Levi Stubbs' tears run down his face. Da, 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 da. Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong are here to right everything that's wrong. Holland and Lamont Dozier too are here to make it all okay with you. Then one dark night he came home from the sea. Was it the Shanghai port? Was it Shanghai port he came home for? Yet again we are waiting on something coming from the Far East. This time last year I think we had the metal had just arrived. To finish the Copeland Road stand. It was last September, wasn't it, really? The metal arrived, we got the Copeland Road stand opened, and we thought that was a bad season. We thought we were playing badly that season, but this season has just not even got going yet again. We are waiting for something being shipped in from the Far East that is being delayed because he's too busy trying to win the Chinese title. I say, my name's Alec Anderson. I'm talking to you from outside Ibrox after Rangers have drawn 2 each in this afternoon's SPFL Premiership match with Dundee United, and what I'm kind of hoping will be Stevie Smith's only game as caretaker manager. Who knows what's going to happen with Stevie Smith's career in the future, and all thanks and respect to him, not just for taking over training and taking over the running of the team this week in this really difficult week for the club, but for the way he's conducted himself. Absolutely fantastic. He's not wearing the suit today because you can tell Stevie Smith knows that it's not right for him to be wearing the suit because he's only a caretaker. He would disrespect the suit by wearing it in the situation he is in just now, but he looks like a guy who's more than capable of earning the distinction in the future, perhaps, of wearing the Rangers manager's blazer. We drew 2 each with Dundee United in the SPFL Premiership. I hit you with the stats at the beginning, didn't I? It's bad. Things are bad, and it's always that thing when you think, well, it doesn't matter even if we beat Falkirk. Russell Martin's still going to get sacked, doesn't he? But we didn't beat Falkirk. And it doesn't really matter what happens today with this game today because it's just Stevie Smith, just a placeholder. It's just a kind of admin thing almost. It's just all about getting in the new full-time manager or head coach who's going to take over for the rest of the season. Hopefully a few more seasons to come as he leads us to untold glory. But we didn't win the day. You think you don't really care about the result, and the stadium was packed today, wasn't it? Ibrox wasn't actually packed, but it was very, very busy, a lot busier than usual because so many folk thought this was going to be Stephen Gerrard's homecoming. But there was also a slight feeling of relief, celebration. Russell Martin has gone, so Russell Martin's gone, so it doesn't really matter. As I said before, it's like that flyer or bumper sticker I used to see in the build up to the election the first time when Joe Biden won the US election, the presidential election, because Trump had been in power the first time. It was just literally any living thing that 2020, literally any living thing would be better than what we've got. And I think that's the way a lot of Rangers fans felt about Russell Martin, and they certainly looked to be proven correct by the end of his tenure. So there was a wee kind of feeling of, well, it's no Stephen Gerrard that's turned up, but it's no Russell Martin. Let's see what happens today. And it's been a hell of a week, folks. It's been an absolute hell of a week. The general moods, and I was trying to catch up with it all. As you might have been able to tell, I got lost in my kind of holiday, my October holiday buzz. You've got to get away from stuff. And there's been a lot to get away from at Rangers, but it's really hard to let it go when there's so much happening or not happening, as the case may be. It's been exhausting, isn't it? It's just been, I mean, everything that happened last season was bad enough. Nobody stadium, nobody ready on time and all that, and then eventually having to get rid of Clement, and then getting in the temporary management team of Billy Dodds and Barry Ferguson, Neil McCann, et al. And then there's a takeover being mooted, really exciting, the takeover happening and everything that's going to happen with that. And then getting Russell Martin and nobody wants him, and then maybe it's working. Oh, I don't think it really is. And Europe, it's like horsing, it's crisis stuff. And we get to international break and we're kind of wanting an international break. I enjoy international football. I must admit I do. I think you need it as well. Basically, if you want to be a proper football, if you want to really enjoy the football properly, should I say? I'm not telling anybody how to be a football fan. I don't really know that myself, but it just sometimes you need a wee break, a wee wind down. But it's more a warm down if you can get to watch a kind of football. Even if you don't like it, you don't care about it as much. I've seen 10 times as many Rangers games as I've seen Scotland games, and that lets you know exactly how much, comparatively, how much emotion you're putting into the whole Scotland thing compared to the Rangers thing. Stop ranting, I'll get to the point. You've avoided it enough. We're going to have to deal with today's game. We're going to have to deal with this week. We sacked the manager 2 weeks ago tomorrow. We thought we were getting Steven Gerrard in. There was talks ongoing. It didn't happen. You might have noticed this, you might have read about this. And then try to have a holiday in the middle of this. I was disappointed when I thought it was going to be Gerrard coming back. I just didn't think it was right. But I could see why it was happening as well. At the same time, I wasn't going to be up in arms about it. And then when it didn't happen, it's more than just a feeling of, we're still this an ongoing saga. We don't have the position filled, rather than me being upset that Steven Gerrard wasn't arriving. And then Danny Rowe, I really got myself quite kind of up about thinking Danny Rowe was going to come in, because that would maintain this. There's a lot of the kind of assumption going about just now, the assumption that lets us all berate the owners, berate the directors, just berate Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell, who have been told in no uncertain terms to get to fuck today by that certain element of the support who wants everything to be killed. You're either killing the opposition or you're killing Rangers. Nothing's allowed to grow, nothing's allowed to get a chance to grow. So that's Patrick, because we've got rid of Russell Martin, we need to have a go at somebody. So it's going to be Thelwell and it's going to be Stewart, and there's this assumption that's been fed quite happily by the media that it's Thelwell and Stewart's fault. There's something wrong at Rangers. Rangers gave Steven Gerrard assurances that they weren't able to maintain, they weren't able to back up, and that's why it's down to Rangers that Steven Gerrard didn't come. I didn't even want him to come in the first place, really, if I'm honest about it, so I can't get too upset about it. But at the same time, nobody seems to be mentioning the fact that Steven Gerrard, why is he having second thoughts? Well, he's been having second thoughts about football since fucking January, hasn't he? He hasn't been involved in football management since he was sacked by Al Ettifaq. Al Ettifaq in Saudi Arabia, when he was crap there after being crap at Aston Villa as manager. After he walked out on us, quite rightly, to take the Aston Villa job. I'm not going to be kind of small-minded enough to be bitter about that, but I just felt as if I wasn't. Steven, the timing's not right for him. Well, why would he have come over, and why would he have even come over to Britain? Why would he have flown over to London? Why would he have got involved in these talks for 2 days if he wasn't serious about it? Why would Rangers have got involved in those talks for 2 days if they weren't serious about it? Maybe Steven Gerrard's got more to prove. Maybe he wants to advertise himself as being available because the coverage from Skye. That's a great thing about Rangers and Celtic. That's why Rangers get used as an example by HMRC, because it's a whole lot of publicity with it really having a massive financial effect on British football, but you get just such a massive concern. It's great for publicity, free publicity almost. Get yourself involved with Rangers. Fabrizio Romano constantly having to disprove all these rumours coming from Turkey. Any player wants to let it be known that he's available. Just link yourself with Rangers. That's always a kind of mid-range believable move. So I don't know why no one's kind of exploring the possibility that Steven Gerrard is the one who's kind of played us in this one, or he's had cold feet. He's just had second thoughts about it. I think the idea is there had been talk. The latest rumour I'm hearing, this is just from guys that I talk to myself, better like mates and all that. There's nothing. This is just another angle that's been mooted in the kind of information vacuum about why the Gerrard deal fell through. Is that Steven Gerrard possibly thought that Kevin Thelwell was going to go if Russell Martin's stay at Rangers fell through. There was this, Kevin Thelwell had said something, this rumour or whatever. Did he actually say it out loud that he would resign if Russell Martin was a failure, because he was the man that backed Martin. He was the man that interviewed him 7 times, I would imagine. So, as I've been saying before, Kevin Thelwell is supposed to be the director, the sporting director, and that means there's only going to be a head coach below him. There's not going to be room for an actual football manager as such, and Stephen Gerrard has always stated that he would have to bring in coaches of his own, as he did with Michael Beale, because he doesn't have the coaching experience. So then maybe he finds out that Kevin Thelwell is supposed to be resigning, so that's fine. That would let Stephen Gerrard come in as manager. There's no sporting director as such, and he would have more, Gerrard be able to look after, take more interest, take more active participation in the signings, bring it to the club. You've heard this before, folks. I'm always trying to prove that I'm up to date with all the various rumours that are happening, because I've not managed to do a pod in the last week. But this is the idea is that he's come along and Kevin Thelwell isn't resigning, and they've spent 2 days trying to sort out how Gerrard could fit into that, and it's been decided that no, he can't go. He can't take the job if Kevin Thelwell's still going to be there. So it's got to be Kevin Thelwell's fault. It's got to be Patrick Stewart's fault, the chief executive, because there's been so many banners made up. Do you take your own bed sheets? Is it your own bed sheets that you use for these things? Because you must have, they've got it done to a fine art now, the Union Bears and what have you. The ICF, they did a big banner up in the. I'm taking it for the kind of the British Rail insignia at each end of that one that was hanging up over the Govan rear today, telling Thelwell and Stewart, come out at half time. Thelwell and Stewart, pack your bags, I'll pack them for you. And I thought that's fair enough. That's much more just directly threatening than the one that the Union Bears put up, the kind of usual, I'm too far along. You don't know how much confusion and angst it causes us all guys in that part of the main stand who are down the front of the main stand, and it's right next to us. We can just look down into the front of the Copeland Road, and you can see there's a big banner being unfurled, but you can't. We're too close to it. We're just right on the side of it, right? So we can't quite see. We've got to lean like that. We're all adjusting the specs. And what's it, Billy? Can you see what does that say down? I don't know. Something about failure. Something about face. Something about face up to your failure like a man. Face up to your failure like a man. I don't get her. No, it's like straight out of Gloria Gaynor song. I thought that. They face your failures like a man. So it was anti-racism. They show racism, the red card, but obviously show all sorts of bigotry, the red card, including homophobia, transphobia, stuff like that. But it's quite good. Just face your failures like a real man. Why don't you? I thought that was quite good, coming from a bunch of, from the boys, from the Union Bears and the young lads down the front of the Copeland. But there's very much a culture just now at Ibrox that it's Thelwell and Stewart's fault, and they have got to go. And I don't know if it's just we need somebody to blame when things continue to go wrong as they did today. The team that we put out today seemed fair enough. Stevie Smith put out Jack Butland in goal, Magoma at left back, James Tavernier the captain at right back. You had John Suter and Derek Cornelius as your centre halves. In midfield, sitting midfield of Nico Raskin and Joe Rothwell. Dello Asgard in the kind of 10 role. You would think that the 10 position on paper, but he drifts over to the kind of left-hand side. And on the extreme left up front, you had Gassama. Sorry, I'm pausing here because folk dotting about and what have you, and shouting and stuff and that. And I'm just still stuck in Skye. I'm actually not used to having so many people about. It's quite a shock to the system after a week of the beautiful isolation of the Misty Isle, where your only friend is a massive bull or 3 deer or Highland Coos scratching its chin on barbed wire the other day. We thought it was actually leaning out to say hello to us past the motor, and lots of black sheep, lots of white sheep, and just sheep everywhere. To go for that to the bears, the bear pit, quite a shock to the system. But it was. That was the team. With Gassam left hand side, it was Majowski in the middle up front, and in the right hand side it was Oliver Antman. I thought Connor Barron maybe worth a shout. I don't know what's happening with Lyle Cameron's fitness as well. I was quite surprised, pleasantly surprised to see Joe Rothwell getting picked, because I think we're now looking at Stevie Smith's pre-match interview yesterday made it kind of clear that he fucking hates Russell Martin. So it was it didn't really, but it's very pointed, but very confident, but also very kind of respectful as well at the same time. Stevie Smith, he's definitely got it. He's definitely a Rangers man. But I think he was saying that there'd been. He was talking about keeping it simple for the players today. That was the main thing, and that's something that a caretaker manager will tend to do. It's been a period of when a caretaker manager has to step in. It's usually because there's been a period of some trauma for the club and for the players, so they want to kind of keep things nice and simple, nice and straightforward. But I think yesterday it was taken as being a straightforward go at Russell Martin for overcomplicating things. What do you think's going to happen with Kevin Muscat? And I've watched Kevin Muscat. He's got right. Let's not do that now. He's going to do the same thing. I mean, as Postecoglou is Kevin Muscat's boss in the Australian national team at one point. This Postecoglou's Fitbit is done. You know, that's him sacked at lunchtime today. I mean, it's sacked by a guy who's wanting to sack a bit quickly, perhaps, but let's not. Stevie Smith, that's the team he fielded today, and it was nice and straightforward. And the first kind of, 20 minutes was a bit like the Celtic game back in August, following on from the trauma of the doing we took in Bruges on the Wednesday night against Celtic, who had a bit of a trauma themselves, on the Tuesday night in the Champions League that week, and it was two teams who didn't really want to. They were more concentrating on not losing the game, not creating any more damage for themselves. Rangers were a bit like that today. I felt as if, though Dundee United obviously trying to beat us, they're trying to have a go at us, but we're playing really well without really threatening. There was a kind of, in the crowd, there was a kind of low-key acceptance that at least this is better than what we've been watching. It was nothing great by Rangers, but the kind of base of Raskin and his promptings for Joe Rothwell were leading to like Othello Asgard and that kind of left hand. It's an inside left role almost. We don't have an inside right, but he's going to play his inside left rather than 10, and it worked out really well for a good part of the game. But he was. You can see by the end of the game, I mean by the end of the first half, let's just say, by the end of the first half, you can imagine Othello Asgard getting the Man of the Match award, but then having to give it to Joe Rothwell. I'm just like on camera, would go, no, but I actually think I don't deserve it. I think Joe Rothwell, he's not been appreciated enough what he did here today for me, and giving it to Joe Rothwell. Oh, that's great. And then they get into the dressing room and the camera's on there, and Joe Rothwell just hands it over to Nico Raskin, because Nico Raskin was providing the wee short passes and doing all the running and knocking it to Rothwell, who was going pure kind of Southampton days, bombing on a bit more than just being at the actual base of midfield. But that in itself was giving Rangers a kind of flow, a kind of balance. We were looking at we had more of the ball without ever really being totally dominant and without ever properly threatening the first 20 minutes or so. We were in control of the game, just, and we looked a bit more confident, like a team who's coming out of a traumatic time, coming back to life. And Dundee United, Asgard had the ball on the left hand side, and he lost control of it. And next thing, Dundee United were behind us at about one kick of the ball. It became a theme of the day. Past James Tavernier was advancing up all the time, trying to be as productive as possible in terms of attack, but he was leaving himself wide open. Both our full-backs left a lot of space behind them today, rather than the usual high line involving our centre halves. And back, Dundee United in behind us and kind of one kick of the ball, shooting towards the Brimlin in the first half. Dundee United were shooting. I don't know if they won the toss and it was to freak us out. They were shooting towards the Brimlin in the first half. We had to shoot towards the Copeland in the first half, or if we won the toss, and maybe something Stevie Smith had said, that was his contribution to the tactics. Like, look, guys, you need to make yourself feel at home, feel comfortable straight away. Shoot towards the Copeland first half, give yourself a wee G up to get out of this funk that the club is in. But nevertheless, that's what we did, and then you just put one just wide of the post, and I think we had a shot. James Tavernier had a shot that went just over the bar about the 17th minute. I think that's the first time we've had a proper kind of go at goal, despite a lot of flattering to deceive. And then Othello Asgard, I think, had a shot that just went past the post, took a deflection, went past the post around about the 18th minute, and then the 25th minute we had moved down the left-hand side. It was absolutely sublime. It was really lovely. I think it was Magoma playing it to Gassama, who did a wee quick flick inside to Asgard, and down he went. He curls in, and he curls in from the left hand side, and then a right foot shot just wouldn't even curled round the goalkeeper. It's kind of like volleyed, swung, kind of thwacked right round him, and then it went to the far corner. Seen that goal a few times for Rangers this season, despite everything that's happened. Left hand side going right across the goalkeeper and curling round into the top right hand corner. I think it was about 25 minutes on the clock, and it was just one of those ones. I'm fat, I'm about 24 stone now. If I wasn't 24 stone before I went on holiday, I certainly am now. despite all the driving, despite climbing up all these kind of hills to get up to a Broch or a Dun, an old fort. Great stuff, the views over. Anyway, never mind. Back to the reality today, Alex. So I was having a struggle getting out of my seat at the best of times, but it was more a kind of, rather than just leaping out of my seat, but yes, it was a kind of, oh, thank fuck. We've scored a goal, and we look semi-decent, we don't look awful. And I think we kind of peppered their goal, or peppered their box, again, a few corners and getting down the wings and getting the ball in there. I see Joe Rothwell doing really well, kind of outside the Dundee United box. Largely, I think the first kind of half hour of the game, despite that great goal, was kind of as beige, as bland, as kind of blah as the Dundee United away kit. Why just wear black shorts? Just wear black shorts with it, and it'll make it look a lot better. Really horrible away kit. Dundee United really. I'm not going to start on about that again. Classic United kits from the late 70s, early 80s, but it's a really simple kit to get right, but they get it so wrong so often, Dundee United. And yeah, that was it. It was we went in at half time, we're 1-0 up, and you're thinking, that's fine, this is good. A bit of chat with folk, you know, that, talking about holidays about to be had, and what we thought was going on. With the whole situation with the Stevie G not taking the job, and who we thought was going to take the job next. And come into the second half, and it wasn't that thing so much we failed to start halves, well, but we came out in the second half against Livingston. We're beating Livingston 1-0 at half time, played really well for about 20 minutes of that half in total, couldn't get a second goal, and we came out for the second half at Livingston, and Livingston just, it was a bit like that, but this was more, I think it was more about Dundee United becoming, the Kevin Muscat, that kind of psychotic, criminally negligent in his playing style, the Kevin Muscat of Ireland, or mostly of the Scottish top flights, the Scottish First Division at times as well, Scottish Championship. Jim Goodwin, that side of his character, it was being reflected in his team in the second half, just putting the boot in, just kicking us, fouling us left, right, and centre. And I think when about, what was it, it was about the 78th minute? No, it was about the 65th minute. They made a couple of substitutions. Dundee United. We had moments. In the first kind of half of the second half where we were getting in behind them and just failing to properly. Our main channel of attack today wasn't what we've been used to. Getting more and more. It was over the last few weeks. It was just Derek Cornelius and John Suter at corners in the opposition box, but they were playing a bit more flowing football without really getting anywhere. Threatened at times. Little moments. I don't think we make enough of Oliver Antman. There's something going on with Oliver Antman where he seems to be available all the time. But Tav's no playing him in. I don't know if we don't know how to play him in. Maybe his positioning's bad. But he has these little moments where he does have the ball on the wing and whatever. He's got the kind of twitchy muscle thing where he's moving unbelievably rapidly. He's got the reactions. He's got the skills, but we just didn't seem to utilise him. And he was coming back, chasing the ball back at one point, down the Govan stand side, and that was great. He kind of hassled Dundee United. They were always threatening to catch us in the break, but we never really made a lot of it. We couldn't get that second goal, and then Dundee United made a couple of substitutions about the 65th minute and the 67th minute. It paid off when they scored the first of their two cracking goals. Lots of good goals in the game today. All 4 goals are pretty good. But I think it's Magoma. Magoma was starting to have a worse and worse game in the left-hand side for us. They put a ball down that side, our left-hand side, their right-hand side, United, and I think it was one of the two new guys on the park, a bit of energy. He chased it down, and he cuts it back, not to somebody else had accompanied him kind of into the box, had gone into the box, but he was just dragging away our centre-halves. So the fella who had it in their right-hand, United's right-hand side, didn't play it back to his partner in the box. He pulled it right properly back to the incoming midfielders chasing after it, just outside the box, and one of them picked it up and then slotted it right into the bottom corner, shot from the edge of the box. So bad marking by us, just bad defending, but a good finish by United. So that's that. So it's just going exactly the same way as the Livingston game. I thought maybe that means we're going to score a wee winner in injury time. We brought on Chermiti and we took off. See, when Chermiti came on, this just sums up the state of things just now. I just assumed he was coming on for Majowski. I didn't even look down, and I heard somebody mumbling behind me something about, he doesn't look happy, and I'm thinking Majowski's not happy about getting taken off. Majowski's been doing nothing. I don't know if it's the way we're setting up. I don't know if it's that whole thing we thought when we signed Majowski. He's an artist. He is an artist, Majowski, but all the goals I remember from Bojan Majowski against Rangers and against other clubs was, he's playing for Aberdeen, who are generally poor, and he was getting in behind defences that are pushing up because they're generally attacking Aberdeen. And maybe it's the low block problem isn't suiting Majowski, or maybe just the three up front isn't suiting him. I don't know, but it was actually Gassama who had gone off, and I thought he was good, Gassama. So I don't know if he's been injured, or he was popping up on the other side of the park, and obviously I think Stevie Smith isn't going to be quite as rigorous with the positioning of the players as Russell Martin was, but. Anyway, it was actually Gassama who'd been subbed off, and I didn't even notice that until I'm watching it going, oh wait a minute, Chermiti and Majowski are playing up front, and Asgard had get pushed out wider left. But I've got two strikers on, that's fine, but they didn't seem to know how to play together, close together. Chermiti won a few high balls, but Majowski wasn't in behind them or in underneath them, kind of linking up with them. It's something they're going to have to get used to. Obviously, it's not a system they're used to playing that much. But all it happened was Dundee United went and scored again up the park. This one, it was it was a nice ball. They played through from deep into our half, kind of halfway into our half. Somebody plays a ball through onto the guy's feet. A great save by Jack Butland. The ball comes back out to the edge of the box, and I don't know who it is. I don't really. Opposition players don't rank with me, especially in a kit like that. It's hard to look at. But he curled it, an absolute belter, right into the top corner. From distance, so that was us. We're 2-1 down, and it's not looking good. And there's boos start, but they can't. I think it's boos that suddenly remember before they've gone full into the portion of the boo that it's no Russell Martin who's manager anymore. Oh, but it's Thelwell, and it's Thelwell and Patrick Stewart who are getting the boos. What I loved during the game, the kind of boring parts of the game in the first half, I noticed that we've got the LCD screens. Advertising all along like the bottom and the front of the Copeland and all the stands, the three new goalpost stands. I'm in the main stand, so I don't know what it looks like in the main stand, but they've got the advertising kind of hoardings are all LCD now, and they run right along the bottom of the three stands and across the balcony section of the three stands. So you get your advert up there for, I don't know, whatever it is, Forest Precision Engineering, and it takes up the entire stadium, takes up every advertising hoarding in the three stands. And then they flicked another advert, and it's got every. But little moments today they would do. It would break it down, and it would be adverts, and it's for old school things as well. They suddenly had this kind of advertising thing that looked like your old school adverts. The old school, you had like all the advertisers had to have their own individual hoarding, but maybe had two or three of them dotted around the various parts. They'd have one in front of each stand, kind of thing. So it's this thing. It looks like the old school individual adverts, and there was adverts for Tenants and for Umbro. And for something like Parks of Hamilton, a few kind of old-fashioned things that really enhanced this feeling that suddenly we were back to the kind of 90s or the 80s, where you just all these different advertising hoardings rather than one advert going around the whole. It's just a special effect. There was still adverts in there for PS26, whatever that is, or some sort of potato peeling thing. I don't really know what that's all about, but that was nice. But it was almost like the ICF stepped in there at half time with their big long kind of advertising hoarding height bed sheet with the old British Rail insignia at each end of it saying Thelwell and Stewart. You said, better pack your bags, we'll pack them for you. And I thought, okay, that's fine. There's a lot of things, a lot of reasons you don't want to go back in time, but that was it. They was able to get lots. So everybody's unhappy. Everybody's unhappy in the stadium, and the Rangers are chasing to try and not have a second. We haven't won a home game in the league this season, and this is us chasing to try and have a second home defeat in the league this season. We made a triple substitution, and one of them was Ant-Man went off, and we brought on Mikey Moore on loan from Spurs, and the ball comes to him and it does really well, just kind of hitting the byline in the Dundee United box. He takes the ball off his man, he checks back inside and he rolls it back into the feet of Tav, who's advancing into the United box, and from about 10 yards, from about, I don't know, about 16, kind of 15 yards, Tav curls an absolute belter into the top corner. I mean, he's running away with the top scorer award already, I think, Tav, isn't he? Certainly in the league, I think he's about the only guy who scored for us in the league this season, so he crawls that right in. And that's 87 minutes. Turned out there was 6 minutes of injury time. He played 7 as well. Did the referee? United had started wasting time. They'd started just like hitting the deck, really brutal, fucking annoying, time wasting, total cheating during from the moment they took the lead in the game. But it was. We couldn't really get going after that. We didn't really get going again. It was almost like the draw was enough for us. Tav come back to celebrate that goal. He did, and it wasn't a goal you want to be celebrating, just get a late equaliser when there's still enough time to try and get a winner. He seemed to be indicating towards the main stand, which is like up behind me, the bit of the main stand probably his family are in, or towards the main stand, kind of calm down, oh, that wasn't bad. It looked like he was kind of joking or having a laugh. I don't want to badmouth a guy who I've stuck up for most of his Rangers career in the face of a hell of a lot of criticism. It's funny how that wore off after we had Russell Martin to criticise, wasn't it? But it was weird. It was really weird. I would like to see that again. I don't know what was going on there. I'm not trying to accuse Taverneau of taking it serious enough. It was just strange. I don't know what that was all about. You can tell me if you witnessed the same thing. But that was that. It didn't get any better. Didn't get any worse. But it was bad enough. It was 2 each, and just have that wee moment. It was like Kevin. Not Kevin Thelwell. What is Kevin Thelwell really? I'm talking about at the beginning of the game when you're watching Nico Raskin and Joe Rothwell combining really well, and I'm thinking we're playing well, we're 1-0 up, and you think, this is 7 of Russell Martin's signings that are out in the park just now. You've got the guys who are all crap, who couldn't win the league for the last 4 seasons, and then there's 4 of them, and then you've got the 7 guys who've come in and have been terrible in the league this season. They come in the summer, and I thought the Rothwell kind of Raskin combinations were a little kind of symbolic, almost a wee kind of peace bridge, between the kind of Martinites and the wee have been shites. Kind of play, wrote that one up during the game. The Martinites. There's a guy called Martin McMartin who was buried in that cemetery that I saw, and it's just so. In the Trotternish in Skye, the most amazing place I've ever been in my entire life. So that was it. We drew 2 each with Dundee Utd. There's booze at the end. Everybody's unhappy, and we're waiting. I think it seems, reading between the lines as we always have to, we're hearing that Kevin Muscat, who's Shanghai Port, I think they won 4-3 last night. They're about to retain the title if they keep going properly. He's got a few more games to play. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's a summer season, although it's not going to end until next month. They're saying it could be the end of November before he's available. I think they didn't want to announce that they were after Kevin Muscat, or that had been agreed. If a deal with Muscat has been agreed, I'm hearing we're going to have to pay Shanghai Port, his Chinese club, we're going to have to pay them compensation, a 7-figure compensation. So that's $1 million at least. I just try to work out 7 figures. It's been a long week. He wins that game last night. It takes him closer to the title. And I'm hearing people saying, well, why the hell are we fucking waiting for somebody to win the Chinese league title? And China's got twice the population of Europe. China's got twice the population of Europe. So if he wins a second straight Chinese Super League, Kevin Thelwell has pulled off a classic by getting, it's too many Kevins, getting Kevin Muscat in. Because he's pulled off an absolute belter. That's a guy who that's the same. You're is winning basically like 4 or 5. That's Carlo Ancelotti winning 4 or 5 Champions Leagues. It was twice the population. China's got twice the population more, I think, than Europe. It's a big league. And China, they qualified for 1 World Cup. So he's over there. I think it's the same as talking about Derek McInnes. When we were thinking who's going to replace Russell Martin, I was saying, if Derek McInnes came to Rangers this season, I'd actually feel I'd less respect for him. I almost I would only want him to come to Rangers if he didn't come to Rangers. You know what I mean? He's the only kind of guy that we want to have in charge. If he doesn't walk out in Hearts, that would be a chance. Might as well explore the chance of having something amazing to do this season. They could be the first team outside the Old Firm to win the Scottish top title for 41 years. It would be if they were to do it, and he only joined them this season, this summer, so it'd be a bit stinking if he left them. And I think it's the same thing with Kevin Muscat. If he's the kind of guy that we want to have in charge of our football club, it's good to know that he has that bit of honour about him, that he wants to see this out. I think the idea would be that we get Kevin Muscat, we make an announcement about Kevin Muscat coming to Rangers after his time at Shanghai Port, after this season's at an end, after he's retained the Chinese title, which I hope he does. And we make that announcement. At the same time, I think we would also announce who the proper caretaker team would be. Just saw Billy Dodds coming out the Bluebell gates there as well, and he was kind of chatting, refusing to answer questions, refusing to deny that he was going to be coming back. I wasn't asking the question, just a boy at the gate was asking him. Refusing to deny or confirm that he knew anything about coming back as part of. I think it's Neil McCann has been mooted as a potential caretaker manager, because Stevie Smith, I'm hearing, I think I might have misheard this, but I think Stevie Smith couldn't get a dispensation from UEFA because he's not got the proper licence or badges or whatever it is required to take Rangers in Europe, to caretaker managers in European competition. And we've got Brandbergen in Norway on Thursday night in the Europa League. I'm sorry if this pod's really, it's far too long, but I've not spoke to you for a week trip, so you deserve to get your ears bent by me again. And I'm sorry if it's totally out of sync, because I've taken so many photographs of sheep and coos and gravestones and fortresses and things like that in Skye that it's my phone's completely. I'm just really bad at managing this stuff, and so was Russell Martin, and he's away. Kevin Muscat's a psychopath. Kevin Muscat is the most hated man in world football. He's been called the dirtiest player of all time. He's so the opposite of Russell Martin as a person that I think we think it's going to be the opposite of Russell Martin's, but I think it's so much the opposite that it's going to amount to the same thing. I was sitting in the car park at Morrison's Fort William yesterday on the way back. Just go in there, get myself a £3.15 cappuccino for the Costa dispenser they've got in there, sitting in the motor, having a wee break, and a pepperami as well. Also got I got a 4-pack of McGee's Empire biscuits. Sitting on that in the car park in Morrison's Fort William, watching all the contestants, the participants from the mod. The mod's taking place in Fort William just now, and they're all walking about with their North Face jackets now on over their Highland dress, over their kilts and all that kind of tartan clobber. And I watched a 6-minute video. It's a channel called Bruce, which is the name that links Scotland and Australia. A 6-minute video of Kevin Muscat discussing his methodology at Shanghai port, and he seems like a changed man. He's not playing the game anymore. He broke a guy's leg so badly that the guy thought he was going to have to get his leg amputated. He's sent off 12 times, booked 123 times in his playing career. There's something gone. There's something wrong with Kevin Muscat as a person. The way he played, it wasn't football he was playing, it was cowardly shit. He was up to, that's not a hard man, that's just scumbag behaviour, total scumbag behaviour. He was at Rangers for that season. We won the treble. I don't think he played the Scottish Cup final, didn't he play in the League Cup final, whatever, but I think he got his 3 medals. He's not a guy I'm greatly proud that he played for the club, but neither am I ashamed as well. But that doesn't mean he's the same as a manager. Could be completely different as a manager. Jim Goodwin, as I say, is working out all right in the end, I suppose, for Dundee United so far. They played reasonably well today, looking all right, Dundee United, and he was not anywhere near as bad as Kevin Muscat, but he's that kind of player as well. He would just go about being dangerous, basically dangerous. If you want to be a hard case, if you want to injure folk, take up UFC, take up boxing. Don't play fit, but you've got to be hard. But most of the proper hard men usually tend to be nice folk because they prove everything they've got to prove on the park. But Kevin Muscat, he was doing his thing yesterday, Shanghai Port. I was watching this video. It's a channel called Bruce. Just look up Bruce Kevin Muscat and you'll get a couple of, one's a video, but it's obviously some Australian guy who's done 3 videos, 2 about Kevin Muscat, 1 about Ange Postecoglou, who employed Kevin Muscat as part of the Australia national team coaching staff back in the day. And Kevin Muscat, we wanted him 2 years ago because he was seen as being the Ange Postecoglou. It was the same thing. Not only he'd won the J League with the Yokohama F Marinos. Let's not use the F. That's the same as, that's like an Inverness Thistle supporter. No, the F, they're no wanting anything to do with Yokohama Marinos. No, that's Cali. It's Inverness Cali. It's Inverness Caledonian. That Inverness Caledonian Thistle. The Thistle's just a token gesture. So is the F in Yokohama Marinos. But he won the league with them. I think he finished second a couple of seasons as well. Did really well in Japan. He won the A-League, obviously, in Australia, I think, as player and manager. Kevin Muscat in an expansive type of football. This football he was talking about playing. Yes, he was talking in this video I was watching him. They'd already won the league last season with Shanghai Ports in China. They won the double last season. They're going to retain the title just now. He was saying how it took us a while with the players. It was going to, the type of football we play. The players were going to have to take a wee while to adjust to it. I'm thinking, this is not what the Bears are going to want to hear. when you turn up here, Kevin. But sometimes you go so opposite, you end up getting exactly the same thing, and maybe that's... He's a head coach anyway, Kevin Muscat, and hopefully he's going to be happy to come in and operate under Kevin Thelwell. The other big problem, the other thing we need is Kevin Thelwell has got to step up and be Gunter Netzer at Hamburg in the 80s. He's got to step up and be Willie Waddle here in the cities. Nobody will ever be Willie Waddle again, but we've worked with general managers. And when Jock Wallace comes in, he's the coach, he's the assistant. To Willie Waddle, and when Willie Waddle goes upstairs to sort out Ibrox to get this place rebuilt, you know very much that Jock Wallace is coming in as his guy. We had obviously Alec McLeish coming in with Dick Advocat, moving upstairs. That old euphemism, moving upstairs. That was just a kind of staggered sacking of Dick Advocat, really. But it's no a system we haven't worked under before. But I think Kevin Thelwell has got to start acting like a general manager, or we get somebody else in to replace Kevin Thelwell who has got that gravitas, and let Kevin Muscat be a coach rather than a manager, because I don't want to see Kevin Muscat having to get involved in the shit that you usually have to get involved in as Rangers manager. If we tried that stuff with him that we tried with Russell Martin, he'd be going two-footed Cantona style at Selhurst Park over whatever advertising hoardings the LCD system may be putting up there, and just going into folks' faces and all that, and it'd be up there in the Govan Beer of the day, want to have it out with the ICF or the HMS or whatever the old boys are calling themselves these days. It was, I don't know, it's a weird one. I'm quite up for it because I think Kevin Muscat is going to play that kind of expansive style of football, but that expansive style of football, that particular style, I think died today officially at the City Ground, Nottingham, when Postecoglou gets sacked. It was done last season with Spurs. It's outdated, it's outmoded, and winning the title in China. Much as I want him to do it, I want him to keep going, Muscat. But if he's going to be away for a few weeks, I have a funny feeling he's not going to come until end of November, and it'll be maybe Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, all that kind of stuff again for the next few fixtures. And that's fair enough. It's quite telling though. It's no Barry Ferguson. It's quite telling in many ways. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I still can't help feeling that these guys are coming in and spent £75 million taking over the club, another £20 million in short order in the transfer market. The team is light. The team is not. But we just weren't good enough today. We're just not. You just saw all the problems with the team today. It wasn't that Russell Martin was completely holding them back. There's a bunch of decent players that are ready to rock. I think he's maybe bought badly or whatever. I don't know what Kevin Muscat will be able to make of these players, get them into a system, but we're just fragile. Totally fragile. I don't believe in us when we've got the ball. We don't seem to be able to keep possession in a convincing fashion. When we attack, it exposes us something fierce at the back, and we need somebody in to get this sorted out straight away. But my overall kind of feeling is, Jesus, just so what? I mean, Russell Martin kept telling us it's going to have to go backwards before it went forwards. We know that ourselves. We've been saying that ourselves for the last 4 seasons, and it just turns out Russell Martin was the guy. Russell Martin was the backwards before the forwards that we're hopefully going to turn into under Kevin Muscat or whoever the next head coach is. And I think we would be going absolutely apeshit if it was a hasty decision. When it's fallen through like that, to just appoint the next guy who comes along rather than going through a list of candidates that we have and properly vetting them and making sure it works, and waiting to get our man. I'm the same as everybody else. I'm desperate to gub Celtic in this League Cup semi-final at the beginning of November. I'm desperate to get a fucking league win, a second league win in the season before November. And we've only got 2 more chances at that, one of them at Easter Road. But if we just take the pain just now, and it feels like when you get a £75 million takeover and just something that's going to change the entire future of the club, it should take this long to get sorted, to get going. And I think 6 months will seem like nothing, hopefully in like 3 years down the line when we're starting to win titles and retain titles again. I don't think these owners are messing about. I think they're just trying to get it right, and we're rebuilding the whole infrastructure of the club at the same time. I'm driving back yesterday, God, and I went past the village of Glenfinnan and the shores of Loch Shiel just before 20 past 3 in the afternoon it was, so that was absolutely spot on. I'm driving through Glencoe and that again, and you're just buzzing off the holiday. You've got Let's Get the Old Music on there, a kind of compilation of music that's from my era. You can watch shit films when you're on holiday because you're chilling. You don't need anything deep, you don't need anything properly sustaining. You've got a few beers in you, and you can listen to old school music as well, stuff now that's what I call crap 1989 or whatever. But just realising that Tainted Love. You should listen to Tainted Love. No, Mark Almond, Soft Cell. I know it's an old Northern Soul classic, but you should listen to that when you're going through Glencoe. You should listen to the sun always shines on the TV. Aha. I didn't realise that. I didn't realise it until I heard it yesterday. It's a kind of forerunner. It's an early version of like Bjork's third studio album, Homogenic. I know, and it's that whole kind of Scandi thing going on, very dramatic, totally in suiting with the landscape, a landscape that seems to be borrowed from, and it's not in geology terms, it's not that far away from Iceland and Norway and what have you, but it's absolutely glorious feel, and I'm just trying to, and it is, it's the sublime, the sublime. You're getting that buzz on, you're getting that kind of false high that you get towards the end of your holidays when you have to go home and face the reality. And I'm just feeling, what is the most sublime thing? What is the great thing? I'm sick of seeing it in the landscape. I'm sick of seeing it in holidays. I'm sick of trying to find relaxation and joy and all that, and what where I'm going to during the October holidays, during the Easter holidays, during the summer holidays. The most sublime thing I've ever seen is Rangers in full flight, Rangers winning at Ibrox, and it's something we've been denied in all but one game, really, so far this season. It's something that I'm not for 1 second saying isn't massively overdue. Seeing the Teddy Bears back to full strength and being the most beautiful thing, not just in the west of Scotland, but the whole goddamn world. And I'll update you folks, or I'll give you my opinion on what you'll be updated on by proper podcasters and proper news sources tomorrow, Monday. I feel as if there'll be an announcement is quite imminent and what the plan's going to be for the immediate future, but I still think we're going to get there. Cheers, folks.